So, Digby, this week we saw Bernie Sanders with Hillary Clinton on a stage in New Hampshire, with Bernie Sanders giving a pretty full-throated endorsement of Hillary Clinton. This is after the platform process had been completed. That seems to be, in retrospect, the issue that Bernie Sanders wanted to resolve before he was able to give that type of endorsement. He'd obviously been giving indications for quite some time that he was going to, at the very least, make sure that Donald Trump wasn't going to be president, which, based upon our system, would have indicated he was also working to help Hillary Clinton become president. Give me your sense of how that all went.
Oh, I think the endorsement speech yesterday or the other day was great. I felt like, it seemed very sincere to me. I don't know. I didn't get any sense. I mean, I read some people saying that it, like Chris Cillizza in the Washington Post said that it seemed stilted and he didn't really want to do it and whatever. I really didn't get that feeling. I got the feeling that he was very sincerely endorsing her and giving everything he had into the idea that he was going to campaign for her and do whatever he could to stop Donald Trump. And not just that. I mean, he said very nice things about her, too. And I think he did one thing that was very smart, which was that he pointed out all the similarities between the two of them. And there are a lot of them. I mean, primaries are funny. You end up coming at it like, by the end of them, you think that the people are, at total loggerheads on every issue, when the truth is they're almost always pretty close on virtually every issue. And that was true in this case, too. A lot of the differences that were between them were, they were minor differences on practical, pragmatic approaches to dealing with the same problem, with the same goals. So, I think that him doing that was meaningful, and I think that a lot of people who were Bernie supporters undoubtedly felt good about the fact that he did that. I mean, I can understand why somebody who was a strong Bernie supporter would feel like, geez, if he's not ready to endorse her, there must really be something wrong. Right. And the fact that he did that, I think, may have given some people a sense of ease that, okay, this was what it seemed to be, which was exactly what you said. When it wanted to go into the platform meetings with an agenda, and he wanted to ensure that he was heard and that his people were heard and that his voters had a voice in the future of the Democratic Party, which is what the platform is supposed to be about. It's not really about Clinton's candidacy so much, or his, so much as it is the party's positions as a party philosophically. So I thought it went great, and I also thought she was pretty gracious too. In the way that she accepted his endorsement and the way that she spoke about him. So I think it's fine between them.
Yeah, and we should say that coming out of that platform process, Sanders folks got about 80% of what they were seeking. There's some stuff that really stuck out for me that we've seen adopted by Clinton. And I think, I think it's pretty uncontroversial to say that Hillary Clinton, as going into this as the front runner in the primary, wanted to take as few specific policy positions as possible, because I think, generically speaking, that's what you tend to want to do when you're a candidate, because regardless of what your policy orientation is, you want to be able to go into a presidency and be able to have the latitude to make certain moves and not be encumbered by your promises. I mean, that is, I think, sort of human nature. And I think, broadly speaking, when you talk about broad rhetoric, I think Clinton was, sort of started the campaign adopting a lot of the sort of broad rhetoric that we heard from Elizabeth Warren at the time, and increasingly from Bernie Sanders. And through the course of the campaign, I think she had to come out and support some specific proposals that I imagine, and particularly if she had faced one of the other more traditional Republicans, I should say, she may not have wanted to. I think that's less of a concern now because of Trump, but I'm thinking of things like Medicare buy-in. She had
Mm-hmm.
definitely supported that in 2000 when she ran against Rick Lazio, but I hadn't heard her talk about it for a long time. Where she ended up on her debt-free college was a proposal where if you go, there would be one public school in each state free to families who are making less than $125,000. That's 80% of the American people. I'd like to see it all the way free, but that's a pretty good starting position to be in. We could go on from there. The TPP in that same speech that she gave with Bernie Sanders about his endorsement, she came out and was pretty explicit about the TPP. I found that interesting. It's not in the platform. And in many respects, I have the feeling that the platform fight was far more about the lame duck session than it was about her candidacy. I mean, I think she's out there talking about it. So, we still have the lame duck thing, which I want to touch on a little bit later. But I think from the perspective of people like myself who perceived Bernie Sanders, who were not only sort of, a fan of Bernie Sanders, a supporter of Bernie Sanders, but perceived him entering the race as part of growing a larger progressive movement that was running sort of parallel to the campaign, he was very successful because, there may have been a time where he thought, hey, I could actually win this. But I think if you go to day one, he was in there to try and educate the population and change the Democratic Party, or really sort of change the debate. And I think he was largely very successful at that.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Look, this progressive movement that Bernie sort of represents has been growing for a long time. It didn't just spring up with him, and I think, I mean, you and I have been, aware and involved in that for a long time, for, over a decade. This particular iteration of the left has been kind of organizing itself. But he came in, and I mean, this is why campaigns are important, I think, and why it's, people always sort of put it down and say that, that's not, the real work isn't done there, and blah, blah, blah. It is the opportunity for people to educate the public about politics, about issues, about, problems, about potential solutions, about philosophy. And that's why it's important to have these campaigns and have, in a primary, especially, one like this where we're coming, we're coming off of 8 years of a Democratic presidency. It would be very easy to just sort of say, hey, we just want more of the same, let's carry on. Well, the Democratic Party, even under Obama, there's been this strong progressive faction within the party, with a very explicit set of issues that Bernie has been championing for many decades, and Elizabeth Warren and others in the party. And that, it's time for that to actually be discussed. I mean, this is not something that has been out in the open in a presidential campaign, explicitly discussed as a philosophy until now.